Have you ever wondered why Black people are not progressing? And this is across the globe, not just in America. Black people are actually regressing all over the world. And this video is going to share some of the reasons why and how we can have solutions to these problems. Welcome back to my channel, Wealth and Wellness with Grace. And on today's episode, I'm so disappointed, and it's my responsibility to share some of the reasons why we are not progressing like we should, and we need to take accountability and get better such that we can progress with the rest of everybody else. Reason one, we know about systemic racism and discrimination. Knowing some of the challenges that have been hindering us, such as racism, what can we do about them? Do we continue talking about it and making it seem like we just have to keep perpetuating the history lesson every year, every decade? What are we to do about it? Because talking about it is good, and we need to learn from our history. So what can we learn from our history? History has taught us that happened. So we have to think about how can we stop it from happening ever again. This issue is bigger than me, and I'm sure it's bigger than you, because it concerns each and every one of us. I've had discussions with so many people across the globe, and some of them blame Black Americans. Some of them blame Africans. Some of them blame white people. Everybody is blaming somebody. Guess what? It's our problem. You see, if you're in the room, it's your responsibility to fix it. So, as Grace, what I'm trying to do about it is learning things that happen to us such that we don't have to repeat them. Simple things such as, how did slavery actually continue happening and existing? Because it still happens to this day. And one of the things I know for sure, it's because we accepted free things. And so that's why I talk about no free lunch a lot. So I always have to think about it. If something is offered for free, I'm always cautious. What are the repercussions? What do I have to pay back in return? Especially as a woman, I know firsthand how accepting free things got me in so much problems. So I know for sure that's not the way to go. A lot of companies, especially Chinese companies, are buying all over Africa and building and industrializing. You know why I did the ports, right? Because those things are not free, and we're going to end up paying a hefty price for that. So please, whoever is watching this video, this concerns you too. You might not be in Africa. Guess what? Wherever you are, this is going to happen. And then 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the road, we're going to realize what happened with those people, whoever invested in whichever land. You know what? Because it affects us too. So I want you to take accountability by learning what happened and how we can fix it by not accepting free things and working toward your liberation and freedom. The second thing is we need to talk about education. Okay? So, and mean quality education. Because a lot of us just go to school and we accept whatever they teach us in school. We don't ask anything because, of course, students are just supposed to accept whatever the teachers tell us without questioning what the teacher is teaching. The teacher is following the curriculum, which the government said. The government, you see, politicians are setting up those curriculums, and people with money are giving them information, whatever we need to be learning, you see, such that we can continue working for them. So this whole thing, if you think about it, it's a whole cycle of something is wrong, you see? Because when I was in Uganda, I grew up in Uganda, so at 19, that's when I came to the US. But before then, my whole education, you see, was programmed, and I was learning about European countries. I was learning about America. I'm learning about South America. Do you know I never learned anything about Uganda? I didn't learn nothing about Africa. You see? So maybe not completely nothing, but the majority of the information I had, 90%, did not have anything to do with Africa. So how are we supposed to help ourselves if we can learn about us? You see, because it starts at home. So even in the education system, we can blame the education system, but it also starts with us. What can you teach yourself? You see, information is out there. What can you teach your kids? Because these are things we need to be doing ourselves. We need to stop blaming everybody, take everything in our own hands. Whatever they teach you at school, guess what? Maybe it's not enough. You need to expound on it and then do something about it. Because I have these arguments with so many people, and I say arguments because most times I'm very upset by how they respond. Somebody graduates with an engineering degree and they never do anything engineering-wise. Why did you waste time in school with an engineering degree you'll never use? You see, so many of us have so much education and knowledge, but we are not using it. You see, we need to use that education and knowledge for something. So if you're passionate about it, do something with it. You see, that's why we're not progressing. So whatever you have out there, I'm not smarter than you. You see, use it for what you went to school for. At least do something with it, because we wouldn't be struggling like we are. So quality education is a must, and you're not going to expect that from schools. Okay, it might be private school. I went to a private school before. I didn't learn nothing different. But anyway, that's another story. So do not think everybody else is going to teach your kids. You need to put it matters into your own hands and start helping your kids and yourself. Thirdly, we need unity. You see, a collection of us working together. We can't do this by ourselves. One community can't say, okay, this is just this community and this is just this community, Afro this and African this and Black this. Now I'm Black period. You see? And even my kids, I teach them that they are Black, because all that we are doing, segregating ourselves, we're not unifying ourselves. We are not in unity. Divide and conquer, and it's not benefiting us. So please, wherever you are, I don't care, whatever you uphold, maybe you're this and you stand by who you are with your heritage, please just know that you not accepting some of us and saying that you're Black and you're standing for what you are is dividing us. And then I don't normally use the word hate, because my kids always remind me all the time, Mama, you don't hate, you dislike. Yes, but I strongly dislike when we go back and forth about Black women this versus Black men this. This is not building us, people. What is that building us? No, it's not. These things about, oh, the Black women this, they went to school and then they're not gonna accept the Black men. Maybe we can all do better. There's a reason why there are forces out there with an agenda to separate us. So you might think and entertain all that bad behavior, but it's not okay. It's not okay. You see, I expect my Black man, whoever he is out there, to do better. So, and I always talk to people every time they ask me and they're not doing what they're supposed to, I tell them straight up, you got to do better. Because we all ought to do better. And when we all start doing better, we won't have no problems. You see? Because we can help each other. We can elevate. But if I'm up here and you're down here and I'm trying to pull you, guess what? You're going to be pulling me. Negativity normally pulls down the positivity. So think about, who are you communicating with? You see, this contest, popularity contest, it's not helping us. It's talking about submission. Submitting to what? I can call somebody a king all day. Guess what? If you're not a king with the king qualities, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Show up, be about it, and this what you earn whatever title you want. You don't even have to ask. You earn the title. You see? Because when you are that thing that you are, guess what? The title, whatever the title is that you're craving that bad, it will come with it. But by being and presenting yourself in that capability and capacity. But you can't just claim a title and you aren't doing those things that, you see, that require this title. In fact, it's a responsibility. Because sometimes people want these big titles. I want to be called queen. I want to be called. It's a big responsibility. And I'm ashamed when I see so many of us want those titles, but we don't want the accountability that comes with the title. So unity is a must. And I know we have a lot of distrust. Okay, we have to understand we have a lot of distrust, and that can be blaming everybody. You see, guess what? It's here. How do we fix it and move forward? I know a lot of people from Africa who say, I don't like African Americans. And then I'm like, okay, because when you say you don't like somebody or something, I need to understand. We have a discussion. What happened? What's going on? Because we've had a lot of segregations before we even came here. Whereby, when I was in Uganda, the only information that I knew about people who are Black in America was negative. I had to come here and learn this for myself. And I'm that kind of person. I don't just accept whatever people tell me. I have to learn that for myself, which is, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but I always give people a chance. And if I tell you, I've called myself so many times saying, I'm sorry. You see, I thought this and then this, you see. So I always have to remind people of that. And I also feel bad because we come here and we are competing for the same opportunities, you see. And I feel so bad sometimes accepting those opportunities, because for me as an immigrant coming to a different country whereby people in America, especially the Black people, fought for these opportunities. You see, to me, I feel like they need and they deserve those opportunities more than I do. So that gives me this privilege and also the responsibility to always think about that. Like when I have whatever opportunities, I'm always thinking back that, you know what? I didn't deserve this. You see, somebody else paid a higher price for it. Because like we know about the slavery and everything, we sold them out. So like, now, we sold our people out. So how do we also take that accountability and responsibility in that? So we definitely have to unify when we come here. Whatever your misconception is, learn about the history, learn about people, start opening your mind. Stop thinking, okay, whatever you got told, whatever you got lied to, open your mind and start exposing yourself, you see? Because that's how we learn. That's how we get better. And stop assuming. Because that's how I used to be, and I changed my mindset and I got better. Now let's talk about the media and how we are represented in the media. I'm ashamed and embarrassed. Oh my goodness. Every time I see our images on the media misrepresented, and also not just represented badly. Guess what? We are rewarding bad behavior. So every time you're out there, you see something, maybe all this nudity, all these celebrities acting badly, and we are continuing to perpetrate that bad behavior. Because guess what? If these leaders in the community that we're looking up to, they're doing all these bad things and saying this, being vulgar, being nude, doing all kinds of stuff, guess what? That becomes our culture. What kind of culture are we entertaining, people? What kind of culture are we entertaining? I'm ashamed, because I remember in school we had a topic we were talking about. Okay, so and in the book somebody literally wrote in a nursing textbook how Black people were promiscuous. I was so offended. Oh my goodness, that was one of the things I remember it to this day, because I raised my hand and I say no, we are not. Because how are you gonna do that? Stereotype a whole people that there's such a thing. That's embarrassing. That's despicable. I can't believe it. And but I can complain and talk about it. But if these are the images we are perpetuating, this is all that we talk about, then everybody's gonna think we're just promiscuous. Like we are this, we are that. What are we doing? And so it's a big responsibility, especially for parents. But sometimes we are busy working hard and we're not thinking about what we're telling our kids. But we gotta tell our kids certain things. You see, what are you doing? You see, how you treat yourself. You see, because those kids are learning from us. Because if you're out there trying to keep up, I'm sorry, Those kids are learning from you because you can tell them one thing. But if you're doing it yourself, I'm sorry, you're not being a good example and you need to do better. Because these are not the images we need to continue perpetuating and then claiming and fighting people when they call us promiscuous, when they call us this, when they call us that. Because it's not helping our community. It's not helping our culture. What are we listening to? You see, every time I listen to something, I'm like, oh no. I don't even listen to all that music. Because I'm like, what are we listening to? And I'm dancing to this? What? Violence and abuse and... no. Because then if you continue perpetrating and buying those tapes and you see, guess what? It's just going to continue going around. And then that becomes our culture. And I'm not going to accept that kind of culture. So it starts with all of us taking action and being serious about what we're accepting in our homes. Another thing is about the voting and political engagement. Are you a registered voter? If you're not, please, you can text me right now or email me or put it in the chat. Somebody is going to help you become a registered voter. And I understand sometimes people might not have the opportunity to vote because as an immigrant, different things whereby if you're not a citizen, you can't vote. And not just immigrants. Black people who are born here, you see, if you commit crimes and certain kinds of crimes, I think you can't become a voter for so long. Or it depends. So they have so many rules and stipulations. Please find out those rules because voting is imperative. You have a right. That's like your freedom to vote. So we need to stop misusing these privileges because this is your right. Because whatever we are voting for now, guess what? It's affecting us in the future. So if you're not careful, also going to the polls without knowing what to do. Do not attempt to go in those polls, start pressing on policies you don't have anything that you don't know about. So I can give a good example. I was super disappointed when they overturned the Roe versus Wade, and this is about abortion, because I felt terrible because this was for a woman's right. You see? So how are you going to overturn that? And I know for sure what they actually did. Most people did not know the amendments that they actually filled in. Because I remember this seriously when I went to the polls and I was reading one of the amendments and I was like, if this person doesn't know this legal language, they're going to say something opposite to what they believe in. And exactly that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And so after all that happens, then we are outraged, then we are marching, then we are doing all these things. Sweetie, you need to do these other things first. You see, start being active. You see, when they have political organizations where they're trying to transform the community, you see, anti-discrimination groups that are helping the community, you need to join. You see, you need to volunteer. Learn about what's going on in your community. We can't just become bystanders and always be the victims. No. We are not volunteer victims. Take that out of your mind. We are all participants in our life and being. So if you are not engaging, guess what? You are the problem. Because other people depend on you to do better. And no, you have work, you got bills, you got family, you got this. Guess what? You're not protecting those things if you don't fight for your rights. And you're not fighting for those people either. So I was so disappointed when so many elections in the past, especially last year, if I tell you they put a record out over how many people voted, and I'm going to talk about this more when we go to the other points. Point number 6. Watch out for point number 6, y'all. Okay, a football game on the same day of the elections. Do you know what most people chose? Most people chose the game over going to vote. And here we are complaining. We are upset. We are upset. If you did not vote last year in those elections, look at the numbers. And I'm specifically saying for Louisiana, but I'm sure it could have happened in other states because voting and elections happen around the same times. So there's somebody up there, okay, I don't know who, but there are powers up there that are making all these things, and they know these people are not going to show up. They're going to put a game and they have the voting. They're not going to come to the vote. They don't know no better. You see, they're acting like they're volunteer victim. You gotta grow up. It takes not even 2 minutes to go vote. You see, it takes less than 2 minutes, but you're going to sit home and chill and not going to take responsibility for your future because of a game, and people are getting paid. We're going to talk about that soon. But seriously, consider voting seriously. Because whatever we don't enforce now, guess what? It's going to affect us in the future. It's affecting our generations in the future. And we have a responsibility to do better. Accountability in us, what is your E versus E ratio? So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it talks about entertainment versus your productivity and education. A lot of us, which is the average person, has a 50-to-1 EVE ratio. This is not great, but contrast to that, the geniuses have a EVE of 6-to-1 ratio. And that's 50 minutes and 50 minutes of entertainment versus 1 minute of education. So for the genius, it's 6 minutes of entertainment versus 1 minute of education. Guess what the E to V ratio of Black people is? It's sad. It is sad. We spend so much hours watching TV. And this is from the media outlets. And so when I was doing my research, it came up to 3.53 minutes or so. Guess what? That's 4 hours, literally 4 hours every day that Black people watch TV, which ends up being a majority of at least 70% of the Black population has that EVE ratio. It is sad. Whereby 4 hours of every day you're watching TV versus 1 hour? Not even 1 hour, 1 minute. I'm dead. So we got to do better, people. It's up here. It's our mindset. What are we doing? Okay. So recently I was looking at a podcast, right? Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp. And I know a lot of you watch that podcast because it's been going on and on and on and on. And so many segments, and everybody talked about it. And I really did not want to talk about this because I don't like to talk about the noise and continue perpetrating the bad behavior. So, but I was like, I'm going to learn something from this podcast and teach my people. So a lot of people spend over 2 hours listening to that podcast. People with less than $100,000 net worth. So if you're in this podcast or listening to this right now and you make less than 100,000 and you watch that podcast, you are the problem. And you know how many people actually make 50,000 or more in the Black community? Less than 50%. Less than 50%. So you're close to the poverty line, but you're so worried about what is Carl Williams' net worth, what is Steve Harvey's net worth, what is who and whose net worth. You don't have going on with your life, but you're so worried about everybody else. And this is our problem. So this is what I'm talking about, accountability. I used to be like you. You see, let me confess, big confession. I wasn't always the grace that you see today. I'm so reformed, refined, and open-minded. And yes, I wasn't the grace that you see now, but I did the work. And I had circumstances that made me change. I had different things that I had to do and realizations. I used to watch Housewives of this, and then now we have this, and then watching this, and then watching this, just continuing over and over. I was in that 4-hour people and no education whatsoever. But a few years back, I had to reform myself because I had to refine myself into the grace that you see today. And I'm so proud of myself, not where I need to be, but I'm proud that I'm not where I used to be. So if you're watching this episode, please Figure out what is your EVE ratio today. Look back 24 hours ago. What did you do with your life? Look at every activity that you did and put a minute to it. You see? If it's not 6 to 1, whereby 6 was entertainment and 1 minute was education, you see, that's a genius level. If it's 50 to 1, that's an average person. If it's over 4 hours to 1 minute, we have a problem. And this is how we fix it. First is acknowledging the problem by putting that on paper. This is my average EVE ratio. This is what I'm planning to do about it. Because if you don't know about it, then you're not going to address it. You see, this is how we change behavior. Acknowledge the behavior, know the problem. Okay? And then when you acknowledge it and accept that you have a problem, then we think about solutions. And the solution is, how can you start incorporating education more than entertainment? And I can share a few things that I did. The first thing was listening to podcasts that are inclined in what I was doing. You see? So I would listen to podcasts to help me grow. I like wealth and wellness. So that's why you hear this a lot on this channel. Learn more about health education, healthcare, nursing in general, and I'm a nurse. So of course I needed to learn that for my particular field anyway, but I learned more about that for my personal self. And then I started learning more about entrepreneurship, wealth building, empowerment, building businesses. So I had to incorporate all that. So if you're so busy incorporating all this education, guess what? Sometimes you don't have no time for that entertainment. You see, so that's how it works. Because the more entertainment you have, it's much less over here in the education segment. And the more education, sometimes it's much less. And then sometimes you can try to do both. I'm gonna be a good example about this. I watched a movie yesterday with my son. Okay, we went and watched Migration. Okay, so initially I was supposed to watch another movie with him, but he chose Migration. So I was like, okay, let's go watch all these birds. We went, enjoyed these birds. And initially I was like, oh, I'm not gonna learn nothing, I'm sure, but I'm open because I'm gonna spend time, we're gonna bond, and I'm here to support him. Guess what? I got there, my mind was blown. I enjoyed the movie. You see, because you have to be open-minded and then use some of those activities that are for entertainment into education. So, and I've done this over the years where every time I watch a movie with my kids, we always have this rule. We got to share 3 lessons we learned. So my 3 lessons from that movie was working together always helps. You see, whenever you come together and work together, like the birds had to work together to overcome the enemy. The second thing I learned about that movie, nothing is free, being open-minded. Because the father bird was so skeptical about, let's not go nowhere, let's just stay here. You see, hoping that he will protect the family. Guess what? He was open-minded and they had so much fun. They had a great adventure. And so I learned so much from that. And then my son got to share his lessons too. So it was really interesting to hear his lessons and my take about the movie. And that's how it goes, because we then had both. We had the education part and we had the entertainment. So when you watch whatever you're watching out there, are you having that? Or is it just strictly entertainment? And it's okay to decompress. Don't get me wrong. There's days I don't want to listen to nothing. I want to do nothing and I turn everything off. The problem is sometimes when you're continuously not doing nothing, not growing, we are shrinking our brain cells. That's what we are doing. Literally shrinking our brain cells. We can't think. You see? We can't grow. Guess what? We're always deteriorating. Okay? Going down, not progressing. So as a community, how do we progress? Is doing better. Figure out what the EV ratio is. Like I say, please, and do better and work on going towards the educational route. Last but not least, become intentional moving forward, because you have a choice. You either continue doing all these other things and accepting what has been You see, the norm all along, or you're going to do better. And I've addressed so many points in this segment. I hope you become intentional towards your life, because that's how we grow. That's how we get better. And until next time, stay tuned to the next episode. Don't forget to share this video, because if you're able to share those other videos that did not make sense, please share this video, because guess what? These 7 points, all those people who are not making anything over 100,000, they need to hear them. Please. Until next time.